Wide evaluation at Chickamauga. One of the things that's missing, that was a question that we had at one of our last meetings, was, are these big fish, for their age, are they growing as good as the northern bass or whatever at the same age? And so we're going to do a lake-wide evaluation to collect more fish and do an age determination to help us with that, answer that question right there. In order to measure success, if we do stock any other lakes, is we have to collect baseline data. We have to collect baseline genetic information. So we'll probably get to a few lakes, collect some bass, send them off for evaluation, some that we might be considering in the future. We also like to see if there's any Florida bass genes in them already, so that will tell us if there's, how they're doing there. But if we're gonna measure our success in stocking, we got to know what we got to start with. So we're going to do this. And this isn't cheap. We're kind of limited because we have a budget, as y'all know, and we have only allow so much money for do our genetic evaluation. And each one of these bass that we send off to do an evaluation, I think, cost about $50, something like that. So, 100 bass is $5,000. So, and we probably need at least 100 bass per lake. So, we're gonna do this based on our funding and try to pick a few that we think we'd like to check on first, as well as a Chickamauga Lake evaluation as well. And look for additional sources of Florida bass fry from other states. That's a future plan. Because our limitations, remember I mentioned the heating degree day zone thing that I couldn't explain very well, but I did have a good map of it. We do have limitations there. I mean, Del Hollow Lake, Commissioner Bledsoe, is outside of the zone. It's really a smallmouth bass lake. It would probably never be a good Florida bass lake. So we can. I'm not going to answer that. We will not consider that one. I can tell you up front. So, but there's other lakes that may be in the zone. It may be, maybe not within the limitations that we've established, like the productivity. Another limitation is hatchery space. We've got a lot of hatchery space, but we've got fish that if we don't raise in our hatcheries and stock, like walleye and crappie and striped bass and sauger, they will probably not be in the waters of Tennessee to fish for people to catch. So we need really more hatchery space if we're going to ever raise any more Florida bass. And these are just for rearing, too, by the way. The big key is the source of getting them, the source of our fry. Texas right now has been nice to us. They could say today, they'd say, well, we need all we can get, sorry. And we don't have any kind of long-term agreement with them or anything. And so I need to look and talk to other states like Florida and Louisiana. I've talked to them a little bit in person, and they've sort of indicated they thought they could help us out, but not anything official, not any numbers or anything like that. And so that's probably our biggest limitation right there is the source of fry. We could say we're going to stock 10 lakes, but if we don't have the fry to back it up, then it won't do us any good. So, but with all those limitations right there, we're not going to be able to go out and just start stocking every lake that these bass clubs wants to stock. And some lakes don't qualify anyway. So I think that's it in my presentation. I'll end it with that. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Bobby. Any questions from the commission?
I've got one. Bobby, in Texas, and the Athens Fish Hatchery, they've got containers, tanks that they have put big bass in, brood fish. I don't know whether they still do that or not. Have you been there and seen that?
Yeah, they still do that.
And is that something to produce your own fry? Is that something?
Well, as long as Texas is doing it, we don't have to do it, if we can get their fry. No, that is a very labor-intensive process to do that. They've got that nice facility to do it. I think, from what we've heard, probably shouldn't get back to Texas, but some of their biologists don't like that because if somebody catches it's called their lunker bass program. If an angler catches a bass, I think it's got to be 13 pounds or bigger. If they catch one that big, they call the Texas Parks and Wildlife folks, and then they have to send somebody, a biologist out or whatever, with a tank to pick that fish up to bring it back. They'll donate that to the hatchery, and then they'll give them some kind of certificate. But they got to stop whatever they're doing, no matter what they're doing, and go get that fish because they can't keep a fish in a live well for very long. And I mean, Texas, I think, is the only state that does that, but it's very popular with anglers. I'm not sure if it's, I mean, obviously, if a 13-pound bass, the genetics in that fish is good, it's gonna get big. But anyway, we've considered it, and we've decided we didn't want to do it, just for that reason. It's just too labor intensive. We don't have a freshwater fishery center like they have either.
Since we're doing intensive stocking on chicken magua, do you anticipate those fish to go all through that Tennessee River system?
Probably not much. I mean, they might migrate out a little bit. Oklahoma, in consulting with them in more recent times, the concern of our biologists of the genetics, the back crosses becoming an inferior fish. Oklahoma, they don't have that concern. They just say they just keep stocking Florida bass, and they've kind of gone to where we've gone. They stock so many like 10,000 fingerlings in an abatement, and they stock. I think they stock 5 lakes every year. Then they have another 48 that they stock on a rotate. They stock, try to stock half one year and half the other. So, I mean, one of the options that we could consider is alternate year stocking in some of our lakes if we decide to do something like that.
Yeah. Thank you, Bobby. I think you're doing a great job. I want to catch some big fish.
Bobby, perhaps maybe you should ask Santa Claus for a calculator so you can figure out how to figure out those heating degree days. Okay. Ooh, he stumped. Oh, I want to take this time before we move on to comment on our multi-state meeting. Commissioner Stroud, Watson, Rice, Commissioner Cox, and I believe that was all that came, other than Director Carter and Barry and Steve. We went down there and picked brains with, I believe it was Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. Am I missing a state? Yep. Okay, Mississippi, I thought. But, and I guess I can speak for the rest of the commissioners. I was so pleased by the time we spent a day and a half, they were picking our brain, and the comment that we had from their directors is they had a lot of catching up to do in Tennessee. And I think most of that was due to data collection from our biologists. And I was so impressed to see and compare our agency with the others, and I felt like we were the shining star. So I want to commend our agency and our biologists for what they do. So get the calculator, and I'll be even more impressed, okay? So, but is any of the other commissioners that went, do they have any comment about the multi-state meeting? I thought it was very worthwhile.
Yeah, I thought there was a lot of great information from the other states. There's a couple of common problems. One is hogs, and I thought that was a good discussion, and got some information from that.
But
I would like to suggest that we do this, if we can, a lot more, maybe once a year or whatever, and invite some outlying states, try to get Texas in there.
I think the Alabama director was hoping to have another one next year, maybe at Gunnersville or somewhere. So it was much more informative than I didn't know what to expect till we got there, and but it was pretty neat to see that it looked like we were the shining star. I think that the other commissioners will agree. It was the data collection that we have, especially for deer and turkey compared to other states. I know that one state said that they based their turkey season on a survey that they had less than 20 responses from, and they don't even do any data collection as far as how many turkeys they take each year or harvest. So, I'm just real proud of what our agency does, and I think y'all need to be commended. Are our Scholastic Lake children here? Okay. They are. All right. Ask. Would y'all want to take a break? All right, let's take 10 minutes, okay?